Hey, Tommy from the Run Testers. In this video, we are going to be doing a comparison of the New Balance Balos and the New Balance Rebel V4. Let's see how these two shoes compare. The New Balance Balos costs £200 or $199.99. It weighs 243 grams or 8.6 ounces for men in a size 8, and the drop is 6mm. The New Balance Rebel V4 costs £140 or $139.99. It weighs 207 grams or 7.3 ounces for men in a size 8, and the drop is 6mm. The Balos may not have a plate, but the soft and bouncy PEBA-blended foam makes it a shoe that fits neatly into the world of super trainers. Designed for versatility, the midsole provides a high level of cushioning for easy runs, but can easily allow you to pick up the pace thanks to an impressive level of energy return and a smooth rocker geometry. As well as the balanced midsole foam, there's a healthy layer of ground contact EVA on the outsole built to provide protection and add grip, while helping to retain a relatively light weight. Finally, the upper combines creel mesh material with a knit tongue, as well as plenty of padding around the ankle collar. The New Balance Rebel V4 is a daily shoe that's designed for faster training while still providing plenty of cushioning. The FuelCell foam is a PEBA EVA blend that offers a soft ride as well as a good level of propulsion, with a geometry that's taller and wider than its predecessor. The upper is a breathable mesh that uses the brand's Phantom Knit technology to ensure a supportive fit, with a good level of padding around the ankle collar. On the outsole is a generous layer of rubber across the forefoot, as well as strategically placed sections to the rear of the shoe.
When it comes to fit of the two shoes, I've actually tried two different sizes in the Rebel. I've tried a UK 9 and a UK 9.5. I'm usually a UK 9, which is a US 9.5 for New Balance, and I tried the US 10 as well, which is this one. And both have fit me pretty much okay. I think I'd have been fine in my normal size. I did opt for a half size up initially because the Rebel has been quite a short shoe in the past, particularly with the early models, but actually with the latest version, I think it fits well in my normal running shoe size. It's got a wider toe box and just a more roomy fit in general than past versions of the shoe. Balos, I was completely fine in my normal size. UK 9, US 9.5. It's quite a low toe box. It's not got a lot of volume in there. You've certainly got a bit more width and room, I think, at the front of the Rebel, but I've done long runs in both shoes and I was very happy with them in those sizes. So yeah, I would stick to your normal size, bearing in mind that New Balance can be a little bit cramped sometimes, but I was happy enough in both shoes. No concerns about the heel or midfoot either.
So the fit for me in these two shoes is very similar. I'm a size 8 in the UK. These are both size 8s. I found both of them to be very comfortable shoes. What I would say is that even though there's plenty of space in the forefoot in both of them, around the sides of the toes and around the front of the toes for me, the upper is quite shallow for me in both of these shoes. The upper in the New Balance Rebel V4 is really, really flexible and light. So even though it's slightly shallow in the forefoot, I didn't have any issues with it at all, and found it to be a very comfortable shoe. I've not had any issues in about 70k of running in this shoe. Balos, I was a little bit concerned when I put these on just because I did think that they were a little bit shallow in the forefoot. But what I found after doing about 60k of running in the shoe is I've had no issues at all. And like the Rebel V4, the upper is quite a flexible upper, so you do get a little bit of give in the run, and it does become a bit more forgiving as you run in it. So I would stay to my size in both of these shoes.
So the Rebel and the Balos are two shoes that I've really enjoyed running in this year. I've put in, I think, about over 80k in both of these shoes and used them for a really wide variety of training. I've been to the track in both shoes. I've done 15 milers in both shoes, some easy to steady runs as well. And I think they're both, real crackers. Rebel came in first and I immediately took to it. Like, I've liked previous models of the Rebel as well. I found them nice, versatile, lightweight, simple daily trainers that are very effective. And the newer version, I think, is an improvement on previous models because you've got the wider base here, you've got a softer foam. It's a more comfortable shoe for long runs and a more supportive one thanks to that wider design. And while it's not quite as nimble and sprightly as past versions of the Rebel, it is still a really lightweight shoe. I was happy running reps on the track in this shoe, and I think it's just a really well designed simple shoe. It's not the most lively foam in the midsole. It's not really giving you a whole load of sink in and bounce, but it is nice and responsive. It is good for turning your feet over at faster paces, but also comfortable, I think, for long runs. The Balos then came in, and this shoe had a bit more hype about it. Tom was very excited about the shoe from the off, and it is a really exciting shoe. It's a very bouncy ride. It's certainly softer and bouncier than the Rebel and feels lighter than it is. It feels quite nimble for a high stack shoe, and you've got that noticeable kind of rocker point at the midfoot that you do feel like as you sink in and then bounce on your way with the shoe, you also get that smooth rockered feeling. So it really has a lot going for it. I think I really enjoyed it for long runs in particular, easy runs. It's the kind of shoe I talked about in the review where I had to get up early for a 10-mile run, and the fact I was going to use this shoe just made it more exciting because it's a nice shoe to use. It's one you look forward to using. Has some limitations, I think, when it comes to faster efforts because it is quite soft. So I've taken it to track and done like kind of faster, longer runs, and it's okay for them. It does them perfectly well, but I think the softness there just means it starts to sink in a bit too much for me at the end of holding a pace for a little while, and I think it can compress a little bit. So I don't think it's ideal for kind of sustained paces, but it is a pretty fast shoe, and you can do pretty much everything in it. Similar to the Rebel, I think they are both very versatile. You've just got those different ride feels, which I think did come across when I ran in both shoes at the same time. The Balos is noticeably softer, bouncier. It's more of an exciting shoe, more of a wow sensation. The Rebel has a flatter feeling for sure, and is less cushioned. Like I find it cushioned enough for pretty much everything, but you will notice less cushioning with the Rebel compared to the Balos. And if you're someone who likes that soft feel underfoot, likes a really cushioned shoe, the Balos will be a better option for easy and long runs for sure. But I think the Rebel has enough cushioning for me, and I feel like it's a really light shoe. Maybe that gives a little bit more versatility at fast paces than the Balos. And I do think this foam, while not as exciting as the sinky, squishy foam on the Balos, this kind of PEBA EVA blend you have on the Rebel does keep giving you a fair bit back when you're running at pace for a long spell. I think it is quite responsive foam. So although it doesn't feel quite as good as the Balos at first, I think it does hold its own long into runs. It does work really well. So yeah, both shoes that I really enjoyed running in. The Balos is certainly more of a wow feeling shoe, but the Rebel really is one that pushes itself into your affections over time by being such a dependable option and very good value.
Okay, so New Balance has released quite a lot of shoes over the past year, and they cross over quite a bit. So it can be tricky for people to decide which shoe they want based on the wide range of options that New Balance now has. These are both two shoes that you're going to be looking at if you're maybe looking for daily shoes that can do a little bit more, if you want something that you can use for lots of your training sessions, whether that's for a 10k, whether that's for a marathon. Both of these shoes will pop up in that search, but they are different in a few ways. So I'll start with the New Balance Rebel V4. Big fan of this shoe, and it's probably my favorite version of the Rebels so far. The main reason for that is that as the Rebels have developed, the foam that's in there has become a little bit softer, and I like a softer shoe when I'm doing any sort of run, basically. And what I found about the Rebel V4 is that the early versions of the Rebel were a little bit leaner. They didn't have as much cushioning in. I found them to be quite fast for certain sessions, but for me they were pretty limited because especially the first version of the Rebel, it just didn't have the cushioning that I want if I'm going to do longer distances and if I'm going to be doing tempo sessions or anything like that. Rebel V4 is a lot more versatile, so that cushioning in it is softer. You can definitely feel more cushioning in it. I'm more likely to use this shoe for easy days if I had to. I definitely wouldn't use it as my main easy day shoe, but if I wanted to run slowly, it's fine for it because you get a lot of comfort and cushioning in this shoe. But when you want to pick up the pace, that's when this shoe really comes into its own. It's a great shoe for running faster, and I tend to use this more for interval sessions, fartleks, tempo sessions, that sort of thing, where I want a shoe that I can pick up the pace in, but also have a shoe that when I'm doing my rest sections or when I'm just doing my warm-up for 10 minutes, 15 minutes before, it's a nice shoe for that as well. It feels very comfortable, and it's a much better all-rounder shoe as part of the Rebel range. I would say that the foam is probably not as dense as I'd like for longer sessions. I do notice the foam giving away a little bit more than I'd like for some of if I'm doing a longer session, if I'm doing a tempo session. I can feel that foam pushes in quite a bit when I'm running in it, compresses quite a lot. So I'm less likely to use this shoe for a longer session, especially if I'm doing like a tempo session for maybe marathon training or something like that, because I do like a little bit more bounce and a little bit more foam in my shoes, which is where the Balos comes in. So I've been very excited about the Balos since I saw an early picture of it from the American Running Show, and because it seemingly is a shoe that is very much focused on that soft bouncy feeling with a nice big stack of midsole foam in it as well, and I've really enjoyed running in this shoe. It's basically my perfect sort of shoe for running. It's got this really light, bouncy, energy returning midsole in it, which just is so much fun to run in. I've used this shoe for various runs. I've even used it I've used it for a few easy sessions, I've used it for longer runs, but I've also used it for track session as well, which I was actually going pretty full peloton for me. So if I'm doing a track session, I'm normally hitting it around 3:40, 3:30 per kilometer if I'm doing like 800s, things like that. And I actually didn't find it too bad at all for doing that. I found I could really maintain that pace, and really it felt like a shoe that was giving me a lot of energy back for doing that. But it's also very, very good for easy runs. So I've used this for a few easy runs now, and it just works really well for those. That midsole, it's a very versatile midsole, so you can really use it for a 5k recovery run. It just feels nice and comfortable and soft, but when you pick up the pace in it, it really kicks into gear and you get a nice bouncy feeling in it. Both of these shoes have a nice rolling action to them. It's not really noticeable. It's not like it's pushing you forward, and you're really tipping forward. It's very nice and comfortable for a coasting feeling. I would say that the difference between these two shoes really is when it comes to what type of runs you would use these for. I think for me, the Rebel V4 is a really versatile shoe, but I probably wouldn't use it for marathon tempo sessions or anything like that because I just want more cushioning in it. The Balos, perfect shoe for marathon training sessions. So if I'm going to go and do a marathon training session towards the end of my marathon block, I'm looking at probably doing 2.5 hours where maybe at least half of that is going to be at my marathon pace. So I want something that's going to give me quite a lot of pickup and speed and help me get along with that session, but also feel good for the distance as well. Whereas if I was using the Rebel V4, I could pick up the pace for it, but I just think for that distance and at that pace, I'm just not getting as much cushioning and energy return as I need or as I want for those sorts of sessions. And I think I'd struggle quite a bit more in the Rebel V4. I think Nick's probably the paces that he runs at and the fact that he doesn't necessarily need as much cushioning as me, he's all right with that shoe for those sorts of runs. For me, I just want more cushioning, so for those sort of runs I'd go for the Balos as well. The outsole on these two shoes is actually the outsole on the Rebel V4, really good, lots of rubber on it. There is some exposed sections on there and I haven't seen any signs of wear or tear in that so far, so it seems pretty good. I would have been concerned with this midsole that it's a little bit more delicate, and without having a rubber covering it, I thought it would probably be rip it a little bit, but no problems at all on that. Balos actually has much less. It's got this sort of composite design on it, so you have this it's not really rubber, but it's more like a hardened midsole area in the forefoot and on the back section as well. There's only really two small bits of full-on rubber at the right at the front and at the back. There are some signs of wear on the midsole on the Balos, so I don't think it's going to be as durable as the Rebel V4, which is not a great thing because this is the shoe that I'm probably going to use for a lot more longer distance stuff, so I'll probably end up doing a lot more miles in this. So the outsole, I would say, on the Rebel V4 is better. Okay, so my verdict on these two shoes, as always, it's a tricky one because I think these are shoes that are probably designed for different purposes. If you're talking about cost, and there's a big cost difference between these shoes, I think I would say that Rebel V4 is by far the best value shoe that you can get if you're training for a marathon or a shorter distance race and you want something to do more versatile runs in. This is a good option if you don't want to spend loads and loads of money. If money isn't an option, the Balos is the better shoe. So if you just want the best option out there from New Balance for your faster training sessions, for your longer tempo sessions, all those sorts of things, I think the Balos is a really good option. I haven't tried the SC Trainer V3 yet, so I'm sure Nick will be picking that up in a video soon. But I think that if it comes down to just the best shoe for those sorts of tempo runs, it's going to be the Balos all the way. But for me, I think if I was going to suggest to somebody which shoe to buy, I'd say the New Balance Rebel V4, just because Balos is a really expensive shoe, and I think when you're paying that much money for a shoe, you don't just want it to do training sessions, you want it to do a lot more. And there's probably shoes like the Super Blast out there, which I would probably say is better for a wider range of training. I think the Super Blast is a faster shoe and definitely better for faster marathon training sessions. So if you were going to spend £200 on a shoe, I'd probably say Super Blast 2. But I do think the Balos is fantastic, and if you really want comfort above all else and some versatility, I think the Balos is a great option. But out of these two, I'm going to suggest getting the Rebel V4 just because of the cost between the two. I just think it's a better value shoe all around.
So it comes to the verdict. These are both really good daily trainers from New Balance this year. I'd say the Balos is more fun to run in. If you're not looking at price at all, it's the most enjoyable shoe of these two for just cruising through your daily training, doing long runs, really bouncy, really fun. Some limitations at top speeds, I'd say, but I don't think it's much less versatile than the Rebel, really. I think they have quite a similar level of performance all round. It's just the ride feels a bit different. You've got that flatter feeling, a slightly firmer, more responsive feeling in the Rebel, which I like, and I find it cushioned enough for easy runs as well. But the Balos is certainly a more cushioned shoe if you're looking at that end of things, and a softer shoe, and yeah, a more fun shoe all round, I'd say. But there is a very big price difference between these shoes, and I think the Rebel is such a good shoe myself that I would just go for the cheaper one here and get the Rebel, because I'm not sure you're getting, whatever it's $60, £60 worth more from the Balos. As fun as it is to run in, I think the Rebel is a great shoe. I really like using it, and I'll be perfectly happy to have it at that much cheaper price. Balos is bouncier, it's more fun, and like I say, if you do want a more cushioned shoe for your daily training, it's definitely the one to go for, because the Rebel is cushioned, but it's not as cushioned as the Balos. But overall, I'd say you've got two good options here. If you don't mind spending the money, the Balos is more fun and more enjoyable daily trainer. The Rebel is fantastic value and a really good shoe for everything, and a nice lightweight, simple trainer. Exactly the kind of shoe I really like for using for a bit of everything. So I'd probably lean towards the Rebel myself and make the saving. But yeah, the Balos is there if you want that all-out soft spring.
That's it from us on this Versus. Thanks a lot for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, click the little bell. And if you're going to Catch and Blow, you kind of find a link to our podcast. It comes out a couple of times each month. Thanks a lot for watching. Catch you next time.